Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquan Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Hello, welcome back to Do Good Work Podcast to everyone on all the different platforms. Happy Saturday to you. We are live in the studio. It's your co-host Terrell, joined by co-host Jaquan, and we are so thrilled and grateful for each and every one of you tuning in every Saturday for Do Good Work Podcast, and we've got a great show for you tonight. So we all know how we kick it off, though. Help us get folks into the room and into the chat, most importantly. So whether you're tuning in from Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, drop the link in all of your family group chats, friend group chats. Tell folks we're on, we're ready. Meet us here, and then stay close to the chat because we're going to use that. Y'all know we use it every single week. I'm going to tag in Jaquan to kick us off with our opening activity.
Welcome, everyone. It's good to be on screen with you again, Terrell. So every show we started off with a game using the first letter of your last name to describe your day or week. I will go first and then kick it over to you. My word is jog. When I think about jog, I think about steadiness, keeping a steady pace, same pace. And that's how my week has been. It's just been extremely consistent, slower this week than usual. But I'm happy with that. I'm happy that things are progressing on time, and I'm finding time to also do some jogging myself. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good word. I am going to go with sharing. This has been a week where I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to make sure I don't put the wrong. People have been telling me I've been sending the wrong link, and they're like, "Oh, y'all are replaying shows." We don't replay shows. So if y'all get a replay or you see something that's a replay, it's because you have clicked on the wrong link.
Or you have
But
you
yeah,
have sent the wrong link.
or I have sent the wrong link, which I'm human. I do make mistakes. But back to my word, sharing. This has been a week of sharing. Sharing of time, sharing of ideas, um, really helping, sharing of experience with other people. And so it's been great. I think, what do they say? Caring is sharing. And so you have to have time where um, you make time for others. You try to empathize with them. We're going to get into some of that in the show, but I would say for the most part, last name Strayhorn starts with the S. My word for this episode is sharing. Now, your turn. So think about the first letter of your last name. Might be a, might be a B, might be a C, might be a D, all the way to Z. Zimmerman. So then think of that first letter and think of a word that captures some essence of your week. Um, we used to say, what was it like? That was like summarize your week or something, but I'm running out of words. So I'm like, if it's a word that I can connect to any part of my week
Yeah, I'm gonna
that
try
I
it.
just had, or maybe one coming, I try it. So you all try it. Put it in the chat, and we're going to pay attention to our various platforms, and we'll put them in the chat for you. But it's been really good to see some of the input from people on the show. And so we always appreciate, I mean, it's good to do the show, period, but it's certainly fun when you all are engaged in the chat. So we'll give you a moment, drop your word in there, and then we will put it on the screen for you, or we might call it out. All right. So while that's happening, I got my little device up. I need to have it up, but it's been let's see, it's August 16th. For many of our folks who listen to our podcast, a lot of them work in education, and many of them work in higher education. So to all of you out there who are about to get ready, geared up for yet another academic year, um, we wish you the very best, a very successful year ahead of you. We know that it's going to be, hopefully, you are excited about the new year, and the class of 2029 is here. Wow. We'll talk about that in a future episode. Exactly who are we welcoming onto our campuses, and for those of us who work in K-12, who we're meeting in the classroom. But listen, you've had the summer. Hopefully you took a break. Remember, Jaquin said teachers don't have breaks, but hopefully every teacher who watches our podcast found a way to have a break sometime this summer so that you don't break.
And I
But
have some
here it
people
is
who
for
disagree with me, but I don't believe teachers have breaks.
well, every teacher who is out there who found a way to break, please back those of us who believe that y'all get breaks,
Well,
or have to, that
be
y'all
on my
need
side.
breaks, and that y'all have to create a break. Put it in the chat, because listen, we're right back at it. I don't know where the time went, but you know, next week, most universities start back. And so it's time for convocation, it's time for kickoff. But what that means is, for many of folks in higher ed, it's time to do another 16 weeks. And so hopefully you're ready, geared up, energized, excited. I know for some students, they are. Some students don't want to see the summer end, but regardless, my grandma, when she was alive, she would say, baby, just keep on living. Time just goes on. It does not stop for anyone. So here we are. We're getting ready for a new fall semester, and we do seriously, honestly, wish you all very well in the good work that you're doing, whether it's K-12, it's higher ed, it's outside of education. These are important jobs to nurture the minds of young people, and you can't take it lightly. Um, and it takes so much out of you, to whether you're teaching, you're an administrator, you are leading, coaching. It's 24/7. So although you do have to find a way to get a break, it is all encompassing. And so hopefully you have done what you need to do. We talk a lot about student mental health. We talk a lot about student wellness, but tonight we want to take a moment to talk about employee wellness and mental health, teacher and administrator wellness and mental health. It's important, because you can't, if you're stressed out now before school starts, woo, I can already tell you it's going to be a rough semester for you. So it's now's the time. It's Saturday. You got tomorrow. I was just telling someone, I want my cell phone to, I don't want it to necessarily do this, but I was like, it's okay if my phone dies, because there's one more day left before the semester starts. So let it die. I ain't got to charge it. I won't charge it for 24 hours, because I got 24 hours left, and you do too. If your classes start on Monday, you got 24 hours left. Make it count. Go buy yourself the dessert that you've always wanted all summer long. Go to the live music that you always thought about all semester long. Give yourself the break and get ready for the important work that lies ahead. All right. So here we are. We typically take a moment to talk about those who are not only engaged in this good work, but those who are applying for good work. So kick it over to Jaquin. What kind of ideas, insights, tips do you have for the job seekers this week?
If I had to give one, I would say don't settle. I understand that sometimes you do have to settle to keep the lights on, to pay your bills, because bills, they come every single month. And that's okay that you have to take that job. But I also believe that, use your degrees, dust them off, find jobs that will allow you to use them. Because at the end of the day, you want to find something that makes you happy, things that you enjoy, that motivate you. You have passion to do that type of work. And I've been in a position where I've settled on a role simply because I needed it. But I also know that I woke up every single day annoyed. So I would say, as you're doing these job searches, try not to settle.
Yeah. Um, good advice. And um, I think what I was just having this conversation with a colleague, um, and it kind of gets to the heart of what you're saying about settling. So, there are times where you will likely take a job that may not um, be exactly what you imagined for yourself at that point in time. And the conversation was like, so I wonder why people would do that. And it's exactly what you said. I mean, you got bills, you got responsibilities. And so sometimes you have to do it. I guess what I would add to it is also, um, it's kind of interesting because I was just reading about this somewhere. It'll come to me in a moment, but also know what your job is. Know the job that you're applying for. Know what's expected in that role. Know what the duties are. Know what kinds of skills are required, but also know the boundaries of that job. Like, also know what that job is not, and know what you will do while also knowing what you should not have to do, right? Because I think that other duties as assigned sometimes gets people where before you know it, you are climbing a mountain, you are standing on a roof, you are repainting the building, you are making the agenda for the minutes for the meeting, you are parking the cars before the event. And at some point you are wearing so many hats, you can't wear any one of them well. um, and I get it. Sometimes you want a little rhythm and mystery to your work life. I'm that kind of way. I like to do more than just one thing, but I also um, know the kinds of things. And the reason why I'm saying that is not because I want you to say, like, hey, I don't do these kind of things. I remember I once had an assistant, clearly past tense, who came up to me and said, "Oh, I don't do this. Oh, I don't do this. Oh, I don't answer phones. Oh, I don't make copies. Oh, I don't whatever." And I was like, "Well, there's so many things you don't do. What do you do?" And when I realized what few things they were willing to do, it just wasn't a good match for the sort of pace of my office. But by the same token, some things that you do in addition to your role become the grounds for, depending on your industry, we call it different things: overtime, extra compensation, stipend, and the like. But if you're willing to, mow the lawn, although you are the budget director, which is great, sometimes you do have to do that. But if you just do it without having the conversation, I'm worried that sometimes these organizations, these systems, and these businesses will take advantage of us. And we're going to talk about it today because I think the conversation we have for the main part of the episode kind of relates to the fact that sometimes we have to appreciate the fact that these systems, these organizations, these buildings were not built for us. They weren't built with us in mind. And therefore, they don't know how to love us. They don't know how to take care of us. And so we've got to take care of ourselves and then be sure that we sort of, I won't say demand, but demand that we are treated with due respect. All right. So a couple folks have dropped some things in the chat. Let's make sure that we're using the chat on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and X, and we'll bring you into the conversation. But before we go too much further, let's get ready to run. We're gonna get ready for our main episode. And so for that time, we're gonna kick it over to, let's see if I can do it, Jaquin. Why is it doing that? All right, take it over. Here we go.
Love it, love it, love it. So, as we was preparing for this episode, we talked about a few topics that we could discuss. And, I've been on social media often recently, and I came across an episode between Cam Newton and Woody McClain talking about, his career, Woody's career, and some of his experiences. And a segment of this conversation took a extremely powerful turn. So we want to share it with you all. It's roughly 5 minutes long, and then we'll have a discussion about it.
you tap into an emotion, have you acknowledged that emotion as real or fake?
It's always real. I'm always looking to tell the truth. Like, how close can I get to the truth? You know what I mean? That's like every role I take, every opportunity I get, I'm just trying to tell the truth. I'm not really acting no more when I'm on screen. I'm telling the truth. You know, and I feel like in my position too, it can, I don't know, man. I get asked a lot about being put in a box. Like, you feel like you're gonna get put in a box? And for me, I feel like I play different. I feel like I play different characters. But for some reason, I feel like everybody sees me as one thing, you know, and I don't know how to feel about it. Cause I mean, even when my first acting class I took in LA, they had this exercise where it's the first day of class, and you have all these actors in there. And then she sit a chair in the front of the room, boom. And she said, all right, you come here. Sit right here. This is me. I'm sitting in the chair, back towards the whole crowd. All right, y'all. I want y'all to tell this guy what y'all see him as. So I'm sitting in the chair. Everybody's saying, bad boy, the thug, the killer. I'm hearing this stuff. They don't know me. You know what I mean? I'm hearing this stuff. And she's like, all right, stop. She's like, all right, turn around, introduce yourself. So I turn around, I'm like,
Which one of y'all niggas tried me?
yeah. I'm like, Woody, nice to meet y'all. Everybody's laughing. Turn back around. All right, what y'all see him as? Oh, he's the nice guy. He's the sweet guy. He's the da-da-da-da. But that moment made me realize people judge you before you even talk, before you even say something. You know what I mean? So before I was just picking any kind of role because I just wanted to act. But now moving forward in my career, it's like I want to be very strategic of what I pick because I don't want everybody to keep perceiving me as this bad person because
It's okay, bro.
Okay. Take a second. See, all over here. I'm good.
my bad.
You good. I know you are good. Don't feel rushed. If anything, lean in.
Thank you, bro.
No problem.
Nah, I work so hard to not be seen as that younger Woody. You know, after that moment I had and getting out of that moment and having that conversation with God, I just always wanted to go down just to, you know what I mean, just a better path. I want to be a role model. I want to be that person people can look up to or go to. And I don't know. I won't allow nobody to put me in a box. That's just how I'm feeling.
So before we start, I forgot to say that there is a word in there that I did not prepare or warn anyone for. But wow, let's dive into this. Let's how we would talk. I think it was moving. It was touching. It's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. I remember when I first saw it, I had to pause it myself and sit with what he was sharing and sit with my own experience. I think it's one thing to hear about these experiences. It's one thing to read about them. It's a totally different thing when you experience it yourself. And the walking off set, the pause, I think that in that moment he was sitting there just playing back that situation that happened to him during his first acting class and really dealing with how it made him feel. I think for me, when I was watching it the first time, how I walked into rooms not realizing that I was already judged or labeled, and that some folks wouldn't talk to me because they had this idea about me before even having a conversation. And after you're out of those situations and you spend time alone by yourself, you replay what happened and how it made you feel. So yeah, when he was pausing, I felt it. I felt the dramatic, not dramatic, but I felt the long pause because I've done that myself. Like, wow, that's hurtful. Um, and as he said, I don't know because you don't know. You don't know. You don't know. There's moments where I've been in rooms where I felt extremely confident, but was told I was too much. Rooms where I felt I dressed well, I looked well, but was told you're a pretty boy, you're doing the most. And then you walk into spaces with a hat, um, quarter zip, but you don't look nice enough. I'll pause there and toss over to you to give you some time to talk about it. But I think this is an important topic because I do believe many people go through this. I do believe there are young black men out there who harbor these feelings, want to talk about it, but don't know who to turn to or who they can share those experiences with in a safe space. I think Cam Newton did a really good job of holding that space for him, letting him know and then reaffirming that it's okay, take your time. Um, and I'm not sure we have enough people in this world that allow folks to do that.
Yeah. Um, Good thoughts. I think the clip was useful for a number of reasons, or effective in raising a number of points, at least for me. And that is, you know, interestingly enough, he was in an acting class, and the instructor created this teachable moment, I'm assuming, where um, I'm hoping the purpose of that lesson was for students to learn that people have perceptions of them, too much to your comment, before you even open your mouth, right? um so I mean, my brain is sort of spiraling because maybe because I just said that we're about to go back to school. I'm thinking about, one, the teacher. I wasn't thinking about it when we first watched this video, but I'm thinking about how many times teachers use exercises like this and think, oh, this is cool. This is a cool exercise. We'll have everybody just like get in front of the room, get in a chair, and everybody just tell everybody what they think. Or like, pair up, and I want you all to just open up and tell each other what you think. And while that may seem um, safe, and it may seem um, exciting, and it may even hold promise for being effective, it can also be quite damaging if the activity is not carefully curated, conducted, and carried out the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure if you brought that instructor into the podcast right now and said, look what happened to him. And it wasn't yesterday. I mean, it's likely some time has passed since that occurred, but it still moves him to this point. Was it your intention to make him feel that? Was it your intention to present, as my president, Dr. Lucas would say, his resurrected self, the self after, as he calls it, the moment? Was it your intention to present his resurrected self with his previous self, such that he had to confront his past in class, in an acting class? I'm sure they would say no. No one does that, really. But the reality is, some students are free to sit in chairs with their back to people and never hear those words. And some of us just show up or glow up in a way in the world where there's always someone who's going to comment on what you look like, how you present, whether you're too dressed or you're underdressed, whether you're too tall or you're too short, whether you're too thick or you're too thin, whether you're over enunciating and therefore talking white, or you're under enunciating and talking black or Ebonics, whatever it might be, there's going to be some opinion and some judgments. That's the first thing. I didn't see that the first time, but I do think for all of the instructors that likely listen to our podcast, we do have to think about the danger that can sometimes be embedded in activities and assignments that I'm sure are well intended. I'm going to go ahead and go there because it's in my mind. Like, if you're an instructor watching this episode or watching the recording later, do not go into the classroom on the first day of class and ask students, all right, everyone, tell me where you went for the summer. Hey, I want you to huddle up and tell us where you traveled for the summer. Why? Because every student doesn't have the resources to travel during the summer. Every student doesn't have some of them, stayed home. Some of them had jobs. Some of them had multiple jobs. Some of them are living with disabilities where their ability to move is constricted by the way they show up so let's create more equitable, that is not a bad word, equitable learning environments where you might just say, let's talk about what we've done since the last time we were together. How did you spend your summer? Hey, let's look at something like we just showed you a video and everybody react to that. That way I can draw on my own experience from the summer to react to the video, whether I stayed at home, I stayed at Big Mama's house, or I went to Europe. I think we have to think about this, but those questions that are well-intended, very innocent, can have a lot of harm. I'll shut up by saying the second point I took from the video is, the fact he has a walk-off screen, we should talk about, because masculinity and perceptions of masculinity and masculine identity are real. Why doesn't he feel comfortable leaning in and embracing that moment? Why is he driven to hide off screen while you can audibly hear what he's going through, right? So I say that because I know I know you have, and I know when we rocking hard, we have met students across the country, especially young men, who everybody can hear that they're struggling. You can hear it in their words. You can see it in their face. You can listen to their dreams just as they start to extinguish, and yet they're hiding. They're hiding behind masks to tell us who they really are from head to toe. They're hiding in their residence halls or hiding behind the screen, cameras off, right? And I think we need to create more spaces and hold more spaces where all students, and certainly men, can be men and be themselves, no matter in their fullness and in their wholeness. I'll stop there. But I think this is an important opportunity to talk about, because masculine identity is not about just wearing pink. Real men can wear pink. Wear pink if you want to wear pink. Stop worrying about that. Real men cry. By the way, real men ask questions. When real men stop and pull over when they're lost in driving, they don't just keep going because a man has to know where he's going. If you don't know where you're going, you just don't know where you're going. And that's not a man thing or a woman thing. That's just um, a person thing. So I think those are the first sort of opening observations I have from the video.
Yeah. When we are rocking, we rock. But I think that we have. Okay, here he
But
goes.
when we're not rocking, y'all, let me tell you, boy, y'all can tell. We be like, I'm not rocking. And it's usually because, listen, if we're gonna
Shady
talk about it,
boots.
let's talk about it, right? The video is not only about the character on the screen. You know, I was smiling when you were talking because I was thinking about this week. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I asked someone essentially a perception of myself. And for people who know me, you probably think, I hope you think that I'm generally nice, I'm generally funny, but someone was like telling me that people think that I can be very direct, very frank, very like to the point where it's like, dang, he's only nice on Thursday and Tuesday, but these other days he's like boom, 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 which is not the way I see myself. So I had to sit with it. And I realized that one of the hardest things, and I think it gets to the heart of it, is like, you know, yes, I'm a podcaster. Yes, I'm a professor, but my main day to day is I'm a leader. I'm an administrator. And unfortunately, you know, in that role, I can't even say it indirectly. I'm paid to call some shots. And if anybody's out there, been a leader, been an administrator, that's it's a hard seat to sit in sometimes. You know, where everyone else gets to play and everybody else gets to be friends and everybody gets to, you know, laugh at the water cooler, but you can't go to the water cooler. Not in this seat, you can't. You have to stay away from the water cooler. And in fact, you have to go to the water cooler when the 4 or 5 people are having a good time and say everybody back to their offices because we're being paid to work here, not just sit around the water cooler and goof off. You know how to say it that way, of course, right? Or when everyone's like, oh my gosh, we want to go out to happy hour. You can't go. Not that I want to go all the time, but I mean, you can't, the seat requires a level of distance and separation where you're always going to be the one being perceived, right? And so how do you balance that you are part of the group but you can't be of the group? You're part of the team but you can't be always of the team. You're the leader of the team, so you got to be laser focused toward where you're headed, while the team can go in all sorts of directions. It was good for me to sit with. It was good for me to hear that. But I'm thinking about what he's talking about, these perceptions. I do want to get to the point of that moment comment too, but go ahead. I was thinking, you know, there are times where I think I've shared this on the episode. I remember that time where I used to be like, used to have a real hard time with time. And we would say, hey, we're going to do this at 7. And then you wouldn't tell me that you weren't going to be there at 7, but you show up at 8:15. And I was like, Jaquin. And then one day you were like, you do that too sometimes. And I was like, do what? And you were like, sometimes you're like 20 minutes late and you don't tell me. And you gave me 2 examples because it's not my norm, but there was like some exceptions. And I was like, I was in Chicago walking to the Starbucks and I was like, ooh, touche. Yeah, you're right. So I had to calm it down, level set, and realize that we're all works in progress. But those days where I had to hold you accountable for whatever we were working on, it's hard to be held accountable. And it's not like as a friend, I don't want to do that. As a friend, I don't have to do that.
Oh,
But
you're using the F word today. Oh, so nice of you.
today, let's see what we're gonna be tomorrow. But listen, well, as a friend in Chicago that day,
I'm
I was like,
screaming.
I don't want to do that. But then when you are responsible for the what was it, report or something we were doing,
Mhm.
so it's hard. I think partly because we're also 2 Black men, right, who are already doing exactly what's in the video. We're already being judged, right? When we go places and where were we? I think that was in California. And you walk in. No. Was it California? Where the guy picked us up with the car and he was looking like Dr. Strayhorn, and they looked at us and it was
Oh
like,
man, where were we?
"You're sure you're Dr. Strayhorn?" I'm
I
like,
don't remember.
"Why should I have to drive around
Mm-hmm.
in a 5-piece suit to be perceived?" I know some people out there in listening land will agree with this, but I don't. I wholeheartedly, fundamentally disagree with this perception that to be a doctor, a PhD, I do not have to walk around in a 5-piece suit to prove to people that I'm educated, I'm a professional, I'm a professor. Now, granted, I don't walk around with my pants sagging, but it's 1,000 degrees in the summer. So I should be able to wear a short sleeve shirt and a baseball cap like you got on and still be expected to be treated with dignity and respect. Reason why is because like I've had students, and many of them likely will listen to the podcast if they're not already out there, And I remember one time in one of my classes, a white female said, she was talking about going to buy a car, and she said, "Oh, please, when I buy a car, I just throw on my husband's t-shirt and some sweatpants, and I go buy the car, and I expect to be treated just like a queen." And the students of color in my class were like, "What are you talking about? When we go buy cars, we dress it up because you got to be perceived a certain way so that they agree, they believe you have the credit to buy the car." And it was I didn't create the lesson. The lesson happened right in the classroom. But because there are people in this country who have the privilege to show up any kind of way and be treated with dignity and respect, I'm going to insist that our country just get better, our world get better, where all of us can tap into that. Go ahead.
Have you heard of rage bait?
Yes.
Really? I just learned that word a couple days ago. You reminded me of that situation that happened to us at California. Let's just say that's where we were. I don't remember, but I feel like that's rage baiting because it triggers something in you to say something. And yes, you probably are stern. I know I was stern. Remember that time where I was in Boston? You and I were on the phone. I was getting a hotel extremely late at night, and one of the workers came to me. It was 3 people in the lobby waiting to get their room, and a worker came to me saying, "Do you have a room here?" But why are you only asking me?
Yep.
That's rage baiting. Listen now, friend. I'm off topic a little bit, but I'm just thinking like, why me? You
You're
didn't
not
ask
off
no one else
topic.
in
That's
this
a
lobby.
perception. He judged you. To make it clear for everybody, he's in a hotel. There are other people in the hotel. It's late at night. Clearly, a worker in a hotel looked at you, looked at other people, and judged you to be the one who did not belong, probably didn't have a room, stumbled in from off the street, and just trying to like stay in the sofa for the rest of the night for free.
But let's talk
That's
about
about
it.
that video.
And this is the same incident where they were going to make me pay for. I was staying for one night, but they made me pay for 2 nights. No problem. I'm not arguing with you. Whatever. I just need a room to stay the night and keep it pushing the next day so we can go speak. While there's a couple who don't look like me, yelling, screaming, arguing, want to speak to the manager, the senior manager, whoever else, but not the person in the front desk. And you come ask me. So although I did not check that person slightly, I did ask the person up front, like, I have not been a problem this entire time. I'm willing to pay the 2 nights, although I don't want to and shouldn't have to, but I'm willing to pay it. But you have this man come to ask me, why am I here? Or do I have a room? And they were very apologetic. They understood, but I was it made us have this conversation about perceptions.
Yep.
Like, how do I have to show up to be respected and not questioned?
Yep.
So to go back to your point, why he stepped off screen, or your question, I think that some folks will say that, here we go, being dramatic. It's not that serious, soft, crybaby. So to not have to experience those things, step away out of the limelight, out of the camera, collect yourself, come back to the screen. I know for me, I've had to do that where, like you said, as a leader, right? I've been in leadership positions where you can't be by the water cooler. You can't go to the picnic. You can't have dinner with the team after hours, right? Because you have a responsibility and understand who you are and who they are at work. And I think that although there have been times where I have been extremely upset in the workspace, and wanted to say my piece, I just had to walk away from everyone, go to my office, close the door, and collect myself, and then come back out and address whatever is going on.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have those. And I get that. Sometimes you have to step away because, like you said, the energy is too strong, the rage is rising, and there are people left and right trying to bait you and encourage you to pop off. But, I hope that we can create more spaces where people can, you know, talk, share how they're feeling. Um, because what I hear in his story is it's very human. It's not a bad thing. He's not alone, right? And likely some of the tears come from this um, you know, pluralistic ignorance, this idea that I'm the only one who, as he said, had a moment. I'm the only one who's trying to get beyond a moment. I'm the only one who keeps being reminded of my moment. And so that's why, like, my mom and I have these conversations all the time, and I know she's listening, and I know she's going to talk to me afterwards. But, like, I don't know why I get, or I do, I get really frustrated with this idea that you can somehow overcome the power of racism, sexism, classism, ageism just by dressing it up, standing up straight, um, penciling in a mustache. And here's why. And I'm going to tag you in. I'm not trying to.
I pencil in the mustache.
I'm not trying. I got to, boy. I got a pencil in. I ain't got no facial hair. And so if you think I can't even wipe my eyebrows because they'll fall off. I don't have a whole lot of hair, right? But anyway.
No, you got a lot of hair. Oh, yes, you do.
On my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But right now I've cut it off. Thank you very much, Smarty Pants. So good. I'm glad you feeling playful because I'm ready to come down your row. And that is, so when people say that you can dress it up, I'm reminded of the day I was literally on FaceTime with you when you were working and a cop stopped by your office and accosted you. You were dressed fine. You had your hair cut. You had your professional dress on. It's like, so I just wish more people could appreciate. Now I'm going to get emotional because I think that's the part that I feel in that video. It's like when people make you think that somehow you can overcome it. So then you start striving for it. And then when you get there and it doesn't work, it's so defeating. Because then you realize what we already know, and that is race and racism are real. People age and ages. I don't care what I do. You were on the meeting, and the guy said, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Strayhorn's here, the fountain of youth." I mean, I've known that man 10 years. Doesn't matter. Let's not talk about it. We live in a world where people put people in boxes, and what I want for people, I want for myself, I want for all of us is just to get comfortable with ourselves, whether you're in the box or you're across the box or you're over on this side of the box, that you just get comfortable with yourself. And maybe for people who are allies and supporters of people, especially of those who are members of marginalized or vulnerable populations, could be any stigmatized population, is I know where it comes from. It comes from a place of love because you want them to feel like they can overcome. But we're living in a day and age where every day, I used to watch the news a lot. I don't watch it now because it's just, you can't even keep up with what's happening in this world, right? Every single day is an attack on everything that we are. Everything, all the good work we do, all the groups we work on behalf of, all the groups we publish about, all the groups we speak about, every single one of them are under attack. And to keep from jumping in front of traffic, you just have to manage how much of that stuff you allow into your head. And you just get comfortable realizing, you know what, I probably am going to put on a hoodie because airplanes are freezing cold. I don't know why they are, but they are freezing cold. And when I get off this airplane and I go to the airport and the sign says Dr. Strayhorn or Johnson and Strayhorn, that when we walk up to the guy, he's probably going to do a double take because he's not expecting us to look the way we do. And I can't change it. All we can do is keep training people to get more doctors out there. We can change the narrative, but it is not going to be because we go to Express and buy a different dress shirt.
Right.
Save us.
But that's not, no, I'm not saving. I'll tap in though. It's like, but we're still human at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you know, you and I, we have these conversations all the time, and we talk about it, we write about it. But man, when you experience it, you just, I mean, I remember just looking at you looking at me like, are we serious right now? And why? And I've realized, listen, I used to not wear my do-rag in public, but I do now. Because I feared being treated differently, or, you know, or labeled of some sort that's not positive. But, you know, I'm on this podcast, and I'll just tell people something that I've really been working on is just working on yourself and being comfortable with who you are and what you stand for. And I think everything else will take care of itself. We know that some of the things are outside of our control, but as long as you know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, I feel like everything else does not matter. Period. I'm at the point right now. I had this conversation with a friend the other day about, they were saying like they just now hit 25, and they're I guess how they say it. I have less and less cares about what people think of me. And I was like, that's good. I think that's okay, because, you know, as long as, if you continue to worry about how everyone else sees you, what they think about you, you're wasting so much time on that, not focused on what your goals are. Who, like, you know, making sure that you are spending time with people that you love and who are important to you, because you're spending too much time over here with the things that you cannot control. You're probably not gonna have a conversation with that person again. Let it go. And I think I'm getting there, but I think, you know, because I am on this journey. Come on, Jay Johnson. That's my word. I got
For
second
next week.
word. Yeah. I've realized that I'm at peace. You know, I don't live with the worries and the anxieties about, oh, if I step into this room and I don't say X, Y, and Z, people gonna see me this way. Child, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If you don't like Jaquan Ovon Johnson, you don't like him. It is what it is. And if you do, connect with me on LinkedIn, X, and all the other stuff.
Not on
But
LinkedIn, because he's gonna write you a whole book. If you write him on LinkedIn, he's
no, I
gonna
don't
write you
write.
back.
I don't write.
When you write back, he's gonna write back, thank you. And you can write back, you're welcome.
Okay, not too much. Not too much. Not too much.
But the thing that he said up there, I want to hear about that. So I didn't hear it the first time we listened to it, but he said, I guess he was speaking to the host. He said something like he felt he was having difficulty with that moment. He was being emotional. He was like, because, you know, after that moment that I had. And then if you watch the fuller clip, he gets to this. Well, the host ends up asking him, apparently he had a time where he was arrested and locked up and things like that. So it's a very public episode. And I guess I'm wondering, Nicholas is feeling nice. What's going on, Nicholas? Good to see you. You know, everybody's had a moment. Everyone's had a moment. A moment where someone labeled them a certain way. You know, a moment where they were perceived a certain way. A moment where they, you know, a less than glorious moment, you know, an embarrassing moment, something that you're not going to brag about and talk about, you know, whether it was partying too hard in college and driving after you had some adult beverages, or whether it's you talk back to a principal or assistant principal about a hat, whether it's, I mean, there are all sorts of moments that we had. And I hear him, you know, because we all have had moments. Every single person watching this episode, you got to think about what it was for you. But there is a moment that you don't like it when people bring it up. You don't want to go back to it. If someone said, talk about your 3 best moments, this is never going to make the list. And we all want to live to live beyond that moment. But we do have these moments where people knowingly or unknowingly bring that moment back to haunt us.
Mm.
And I think that's what causes him to, be so emotional, is like, for all the fame and fortune or success he's had, here it is again, this one moment. And he diminishes it and says, that moment that I had. But I think people can only harm you and hurt you with your moment if you believe that you're the only one that has one. But the moment that I realize everybody's had a moment, it's freeing, it's liberating, right? Because I don't feel like you can control me talking about my moment, because when you're done, I'm gonna say, okay, and how was your moment? What did you learn from your moment? Maybe we can compare notes, because everyone's had a situation where, you had a second thought. I was telling my mom, I think I was maybe even on the phone with my mom, because I wasn't on the phone with you, but
At least
I
you
got a
call
ticket.
somebody.
You said what?
At least you call somebody.
Yeah, I got a ticket this week, and it's one of those moments I was like,
Oh, you got a ticket?
oh no, I was on the phone with a coworker, and yeah, I got a ticket. I was going down the street, and literally when I turned off the street, it was a trap. Right when I turned off the street, it was a school zone. And so there were cops, like 4 or 5 cops. They were just literally pulling. When they pulled me off there was like 20 cars. They had just stopped, and they were just giving us all tickets, whatever. They're trying to hit a quota. And so I got this ticket. It was very frustrating. It was not what I was trying to. I was just trying to go to the store and get back. And then he accused me, not really accused me, because it didn't get that strong. But he was like, "Yeah, I saw you trying to change lanes and go around." And I was like, "Actually, I didn't. I thought I thought he was a person standing in the middle of the street who wasn't fully present." And so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to hit someone, so let me move over. That's when I sort of I didn't have my glasses on, my vision cleared up, and I was like, oh, that's a cop. Anyway, I got this ticket, and while he's talking to me, all these things are going through my head, right? Like, just be calm, watch your tone, watch your hands, just get the ticket and get out of here safely. And every moment I've ever had with a cop, and I haven't had many, but I mean, like tickets, speeding tickets when I was in college, whatever, was flooding through my mind. And I was just thinking to myself, all I want to do, which is really wild, but all I want to do is get this ticket and get away from here. And so when he handed me the ticket, I was like, thank you. And then I got in my car, and as I drove off, I was like, I just thanked the cop for a ticket, But if you have a moment, which everyone has, you can be controlled by that moment, the memory of that moment. And sometimes people use it to hurt you. And sometimes we psychologically hurt ourselves by just replaying and replaying and reliving those moments.
Mm-hmm. How do you work through your moments?
I think the psychologist in me these days shows up more often. I mean, I'm a man of faith too. So I do pray, and I do lean on, spiritual resources, singing hymns and spiritual songs, or praying to God, or reading scripture. Some of those can be effective, but, I also am a person who I need to, this mind of mine, which I depend on quite a lot. It knows, my body knows how to respond to my mind, because I mean, that's what I do for a living, is I teach and I speak. And so the body is often being controlled by the mind. I realize there's a deeper connection, because I call on them to collaborate in that way so much that I have to disrupt that connection. Because if I'm not careful, my mind, like that day, will make me think, okay, because this is what I think, right? When I see those red lights, not that there were any red lights, the cop was standing in front of me. When I see them, I don't think safety. I think harm. I'm afraid, I don't feel what some people feel when they see cops. And that's just because of how I show up in the world. So my brain was telling me, uh-oh, alarm, you're in trouble, protect yourself, guard yourself, defend yourself. And you have to be careful because defense can look like this. Defense can be, like you said, haughty and quick and tempered. And I don't want to do that with a cop, not nowadays. And so I've got to tell my brain, no, don't activate the alarm. Everything's calm. Yes, you are associating red lights and cops with harm, and usually that is good, but I need you not to do that right now. And body, I need you to stay calm. I don't need you to tighten up. I don't need you to be moving quickly because you're going to think you're hiding something, right? So I think all the things I said first, but then I have to really be intentional about undoing these automatic associations that we have. I have to be intentional about stopping this dirty thinking. Stinking thinking is what we call it in psychology, where cop means I'm going to be harmed. If I'm going to be harmed, I got to defend myself. If I don't defend myself, I'm a man. You don't talk to me, I'm a man. No, I'm not, no. None of that's going to work right now. So I got to quit and interrupt those automatic associations and that harm in order for me to process my moments when those are the moments. My last example is like, I also had to free myself and tell myself it's okay. Like you said, sometimes, like it wasn't glorious when I heard the idea that like, you don't hang out with us at the water cooler and you don't play games with us like we play games with each other. I had to accept the fact that, okay, my assignment is to be the leader. My assignment is to be the overseer of this, and for people to respect you. I wish it was the case that we could all play in the sandbox and everybody respects each other. We just don't live in that kind of world. The moment you get into the sandbox, people feel like, oh, you're part of the sandbox. I can treat you any kind of way, which sometimes means that you can't be effective in leading the team in the direction that the organization, the business, or the industry needs to go, which is why you have to stay out of the sandbox, right? So I just sometimes have to tell myself, you know what? It's not you. It's the assignment. It's not you. It's the position. And free myself. What about you? How do you process your moments?
I'm gonna start where you left off. I learned that the hard way. You helped me with that and realize it. I think that my very first leadership position, I was. Wait, what you mean by the sandbox? Before I say what I want to say.
I think you tracking.
Okay,
you picking up what I'm putting down.
Okay, not too much. But no, I was in the sandbox with people I oversaw, and I remember having a team meeting with them. And a comment was made, and I've shared it with you later on. You were like, that, and how did you handle that? And I was like, oh, I just let it go. I mean, that's just how we talk to each other. You're like, no, not in that seat. You can't do that. So like I said, I've learned the hard way. So now I realize being in these positions that I don't, we come to work, we do what we got to do. I'm going to go on and play with other folks that are in my corner, not with you all. I also realize that people at work are not your friends, period. So how do I handle it? Again, I'm on a whole journey because at one point it would control me for days and days. And you know that like something happened to me in the past, and boy, I'll be on day 3 still talking about it because I'm trying to process what happened and why it happened that way. And I talked to many people about the situation or situations to figure out like, what is your perspective? How do you feel about it? And let them share that with me. Just kind of get some different ideas on the topic. And my mouth was fast. So if I felt any sort of disrespect, I'm probably going to get in that ass at some point. Now, I think that I step away. And like you said, like make sure that you kind of stop the stinky thinking upstairs in your mind, because it can make you do things that you regret later. So I step away. I usually would go for a short walk, think about it. I do also, I do more of music, gospel music, but I also realize too, not too much gospel music, because then I get into that, my emotions, and then I start crying and I'll start like, why me? So, at some point I had to stop that. Depends on like maybe 3 or 4 songs, and it's like that fourth song that it hits the spot. I let it go, I let it play, and then I'm done. And then I just kind of journal about the experience. But I don't journal to keep it. I journal and throw it away.
Yeah.
And once I throw away that 2, 3, 4 sheets of paper,
Yep.
I'm done with it. I'm not talking about it anymore. If it does come up again at that point, because I've journaled, I took a walk, I reflected, I thought about the situation, I have a response to it that is respectful and professional. So I'm not when it comes back my way, I'm not triggered again. I've already replayed and played in my head how I'm going to respond to it. That's my response, and I keep it pushing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a healthy way of thinking through it. I often, perceptions, I guess, is what we're talking about. And one, perceptions are perceptions. People have to appreciate it's just one way of seeing something. Just one way. It doesn't mean it's the only way. It doesn't mean it's the right way. Like today I said something, and this is we talked about this a few I don't know, months ago, when the question, I don't even know how it came into my lexicon, but periodically I will say something that my sister will, people will help me unpack, how it lands with people. But people would say stuff, and this happens a lot, where people just I'd ask a question and people just start talking. And to me, it's like, and I'm easily overwhelmed when people start talking about a bunch of stuff that to me is not related to what I'm asking. Now, one, I've learned a lot of people like riddles. People love to leave you guessing. And fine, I've learned to ask people, is that a riddle? I was asking my assistant the other day, he said something and I was like, is that a riddle? And he said, yes. And I was like, I'm just gonna tell you now, I don't like riddles. And so I like for you to just talk directly to me. Now, sometimes he'll say, okay, Dr. Strayhorn, here's a riddle. And then he'll give it to me and I might play along, but I'm not good at them and I don't want to spend that much of I'm not usually free to spend that much of my work day to figure out a riddle. Okay, so riddling is one way that people start saying stuff. I'm like, wait, what's happening? But usually it's because people don't want to answer the question. Like, why are you late? Did you see what happened with the Supreme Court today? And I'm like, wait, huh? And then we start talking and it's like a way to get you off center. So what I used to say is when they're done, I would look at them and say, what question do you hear yourself answering? Which I thought was a very nice way of saying, like, sort of recentering, but in conversation with you and other people, helped me realize, like, that is so rude. Okay, so, and your mom, who I refer to as second mom, I'm her, what is it? Another mother? Anyway, my second mom, your mom, who I've actually never met in person, I don't think yet, is a teacher. So hopefully she can appreciate this. Today, someone said that a math teacher told the students during the summer program, I'm not here to teach you math. So then they went on with their story. It's like, wait, what did the math teacher say? And they said, they told the students, I'm not here to teach you math. I said, so then what are they here to teach them? And everyone burst out laughing. And they're like, exactly. But like, that wasn't exactly to me. That was like, literally, you're a math teacher. If math teachers don't teach math, then what do they teach? Why would you say that to people? And when it happened, I was like, oh, here's another moment where someone would think I'm trying to be snarky and I'm trying to be sassy, but I'm actually not. It's a legitimate question in my mind. I'm thinking, you look at your business card, it says math teacher. And you just told them you don't teach math. So what are you here for? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's perception. Like people, maybe there's something that people would believe, oh, okay, if it comes out like that, it's got to be snarky, it's got to be sassy, it's got to be a sarcastic remark, when in fact, hook me up to a lie detector, I would pass. I'm not trying to be that way all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's just it's a
Listen though, the fact that I know it's so true, like you don't mean it. But I remember the first time you said that to me, you were like, what do you hear yourself answering? Who are you talking to, first of all? Because you're not talking to me. But you got to get to know you, and then you realize, like, no, it's a legit question. So I could also be at that table with you and hear. So what do they teach? I'll probably be the one at first meeting you would laugh and be like, exactly. But you are really asking a question that needs an answer.
When I tell you everyone was laughing and like let them have it straight. I was like, but I'm not. Like, I just want to pause for a moment. Don't tell me no more of the story. What are they here to teach? So I think that's really interesting just because
I've grown to love that about you. I know
you
at first I
can,
was like,
yeah, but you know, we're getting to the end. Let's take it back to the video, right? So sometimes you have to sit with the fact that, dang, that was a real question. I really wasn't trying to be. My sister, I know she's watching. The other day, she said, she texted me. She said, "Have the day that you deserve."
mhm.
So I called her and I said, "Kim, you know that's not what you should text people." And she was like, "Why? What do you mean? I saw it on something social media and I loved it." I was like, when people normally say that, they're trying to be smart. It's like they say it to someone who they don't really care for, like, "Hey, you filthy maggot, have the day that you deserve."
Get off this screen. Get off of this screen. All right. You having too much fun on this podcast.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but again, she innocent. She had no idea. She said, I gotta regroup. We all here's the takeaway. Everybody's perceiving each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody who's watching the episode is thinking, why do people think of me this way? Or what did I do wrong? Or why am I always left out? Or why am I always the one who's you know, kicked out of the group text or the last to be invited? Shake it off. Shake it off. We all have moments. There are perceptions out there about everybody, every single one of us. And in a lot of cases, the perception is not the reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what the truth. What do you say? They said thug, dangerous guy, all of this. And then after he sort of greeted them, they came back and said, he's a nice guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going to pick up is like people will judge you before you even interact with them, but continue to be yourself, be authentic. And once they get to know you, they'll realize that the value that you add to the group, to the company, to the industry, to them. And like you said, just shake it off. Because at some point they're going to realize that you are the real deal. You're the real thing. You're honest. You have high integrity. You whatever you are, however you identify. Um, but like I said earlier, don't allow those things to really shape or influence how you show up. Just be you at all times.
Yep. So to wrap up, if you had to look back and speak to your previous self,
Mm.
when you were at one of your lowest moments, one of your frustrated, one of those moments, if you had to look back and look at yourself and say, "Hey, you back then," what would you say? What advice would you have for yourself?
If I had to look back and I would go as early as like elementary school, and I would say that your story is not over. You are writing this current chapter. At some point, this chapter will be done. You will turn to the next chapter and begin to write that one. And as you move through life, through these chapters, however you want to call it, continue to grow and develop, learn, learn yourself, strive to be better every single day. There'll be days you won't get it right, and that's okay. Give yourself grace. You're not perfect. God made you imperfect, right? You can't be Him. So learn from your mistakes. Apologize when you are wrong. Hint, hint.
Find that clap.
Yeah. And don't let anyone write your story for you. You write it. And when your day is, when it's your last day, you'll be able to smile because you wrote your own story. That's what I would say to myself.
I love that. Wow. Yeah, I would say similar kinds of things to myself. I think because of the video that we chose tonight, I think the one thing I would say to myself, which we don't say enough, is you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not the only person who has ever felt left out. You're not the only person who's ever, fell on hard times. You're not the only person who was misjudged, mistreated, gave more than you ever received back from people. Um, we're there for people who won't be there for you, who forgave though people don't forgive you. It's like all those things that I remember. Um, I'm going back not as far as to elementary school. There's a time where I was living in Nashville, and I remember, although I have very fond memories of that time, because I pushed myself to go out and ride my bicycle, go for a run, eat an apple, go to the coffee shop when I wanted to stay inside and put black sheets on the window and just sulk in whatever I was going through. I forced myself to get out. But what I would tell myself during that period of my life is, you know what, when you're in that coffee shop, half the people in here have the same sort of thoughts that you have. And that is, will it ever work out? Will I ever win? What about me? When is my season? And so you're filled with all these questions. And to anybody who's watching the podcast or will watch the recording later, listen, you've had your moment in the past, but your best days are ahead of you. And there's so many wonderful moments yet to come. You just got to believe in yourself. And when you don't believe in yourself, be around people who believe in you. And if you're around people who don't believe in you, as I was just telling a group of students the other week, it's time to go through your phone and start deleting. I'm not saying you got to block people, just delete them. If they're not texting back or they're not texting you in the morning, just delete them. Just put delete. Change their name to delete. But listen, you need people who will sing to you. You need people who will hear you. You need people who will sort of look. The world is hard. I don't even know 100% of what's happening in the world because, again, I've had to meter how much of the news I can take in right now. I'm not keeping up. I don't want to keep up with it all. I can't keep up with it all. So I'm not exactly sure every single thing that's happening in the world. But what I have a sense of, because of where we were in San Francisco, and we were in a room full of people who had their federal grants pretty much canceled. And that meant that they would lose their jobs, their teams would lose their job, but most importantly, the students who depended on these resources to get to college and get through college would also lose those resources. And what do you say to those folks, right? And how do you offer them an upbeat, positive message when the storm is raging in your own life? You got to connect with people who can shine light, who can bring joy, who, when they pop up on your phone, you smile, you get excited about talking with them. And you have to balance the number of people. And, I know for myself, we were talking about a journey. In this season, I am very careful because I was sharing with one of my team members, like, I realize that right now, most of my activities require me to pour into others, pour into a crowd, pour into a team, pour into students, right? And if I'm not careful, I'll be pouring from an empty cup. And there's nothing worse than trying to pour. Well, one, it's not possible to pour from an empty cup. So I've got to make sure that while I'm pouring, I'm also recharging and filling myself up, which is, why sometimes, we'll get on screen for people who are trying to figure out this, we'll get on screen and stay there all day. because yes, there's work to be done, but I get joy in the conversations that happen between the manuscripts.
Come on, somebody.
I get joy when I hear about the story associated with your coffee mug. You know, I get joy when we've done the manuscript and then we get 15 minutes to just throw ourselves into social media. I get it. For a lot of people, that's not work. And that is work. But, you know, for a lot of people watching us, they'll be like, this is weird. How y'all
And, you
getting
know,
so
some people
happy about
don't. Some
social
people
media?
they don't get it. You know.
But, you know, for a person who has to pour, for people who have to pour, for people who have to go to San Francisco to look at a room full of people who are facing the toughest moments of their life. You know, I was telling one of my colleagues the other day, you know, when we were in San Francisco, we ended up walking to a corner store. It's not a fancy store. It wasn't a Neiman Marcus. It wasn't a Nordstrom. It was like a corner store. And we got some chips and some juice. And I had the time of my life. I needed the chips and the juice. Why? Because I knew the chips and the juice would lead us back to have the conversation. And it's through the conversation and the movement through. Now, granted, you called out what I did that was a little too strong in the talk, and I called out the moments you did, but it's through that dialogue that I'm actually recharged, that I'm actually restored. And I know the same is true for you. So for those who need it, find people you can trust with your journey, that you can trust with your story, and just realize it ain't going to be Skittles and rainbows every day. It's not going to always feel good. But as I say to my doctoral students, always at commencement, I know it didn't feel good. I know the experience wasn't always, there were some hard days, there were some dark days, but at the point of graduation and hooding, I hope you would say it was worth it. And to anybody out there, there it is. I would say to myself, my previous self, hey, hang on in there, tie a knot and hang on. The day is going to come when you're going to realize it was worth it. And with that, it is our great pleasure to wrap up yet another episode, dynamic episode of Do Good Work Podcast. It's your boys, T-Rel, no, T-Rizzy? Yeah.
T-Rizzy
And J Squared. Until next time, listen, y'all, if you're going to go out here in this world, it's literally starting to get dark outside where I am. If you're going to go out in this world, no matter how dark it is, no matter how light it is, and you're going to do something, don't be afraid to do something good. And y'all know what we call it. We call it doing good work. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.